Hello, my name is Ayana Majabay, and welcome to The Artist Pivot, a weekly conversation with artists about their current pivot, past pivots, and every pivot in between. On this episode, I am joined by Melissa Victor, who is a Baltimore native, DC-trained New York City performer in musical theater. She has been seen on many stages across the U.S. and just wrapped her first SAG film, The Foundation. She is also the creator and host of a new children's podcast called Stoopkid Stories, which is now making its way into households all over the world. A lover of Christ, cookies, and all creativity. We discuss her transition back into her childhood home because of COVID-19 and how she has traded in her LaDuca character shoes for a microphone. Here's our conversation. Miss Melissa, how are you, hon?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing well.
I miss seeing you and like Pearl and Ripley. Like, hey, girl.
I do too. Like I do miss that so much. Just seeing the faces and giving hugs,
Yes, giving hugs.
embraces.
That's it. Break legs and giving hugs. And oh my God.
Oh,
Well,
I know, reminiscing.
Yep. The times.
Good times, great times. Oh, Lord, yes. But what have you been up to, in this quarantine that we thought was going to be 2 weeks, and then we're still here?
Listen, the fact that I packed up my stuff for 2 weeks and I came home to Baltimore and I was like, I'll be here for 2 weeks, told my roommates I'll see them, and then here we are. So at first it was a lot of laying around, not doing anything because I didn't know which way was up. And then everyone was doing self-tape, so I was trying to grind and find all these self-tapes, and then that got exhausting. So then I laid down for a little while again for a couple more days. But the only thing that was really that's been really consistent in this pandemic, I guess, quarantine styleness, is my podcast.
Right.
That's really the only thing that I've been consistently working on, that's been consistently growing and consistently, reaping what I've sowed into it.
And were you working on it before the quarantine, or did this come out of the quarantine?
No, see, I'm one of the podcasters who launched before the quarantine.
I see.
So I launched in January. My first episode was in January, but I bought my mic and stuff back in November, December, and started writing in November and December. Launched in January, and I was like, okay, I'll do one episode a month because it was just for fun, kind of, sort of. And then all the kids were out of school and parents were looking for things for their kids to do during quarantine. So there was an uptick in children's podcast.
Right.
And I was like, oh, you may need to put out more episodes and write some more.
Right. Exactly. For the listeners, her podcast is called Stoop Kids.
Yeah, Stoopkid Stories. We are out here.
Yes, but how is that?
It's great. I'm trying to treat it like my 9 to 5 right now, which is so bizarre to think about because I remember I used to be the girl that thought I would never be an entrepreneur. I would never. I'm like, I'm an actor. Like, I'm not an entrepreneur. Like, if everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, the world can't work because everyone has their own company. And then now here I am, an entrepreneur, going to my tax lady and hiring lawyers and, about to file a LLC for Stoop Kids because of the rate that it's growing and the opportunities that it's presenting. I'm like, oh, okay, take this seriously because this is doing something bigger than you could have ever imagined, So it's great.
Good. I mean, that's kind of, you mentioned, I think all of us actors kind of think that. And again, don't know why, but we do kind of think, well, entrepreneur, no, I'm an actor or I'm a performer or dancer or whatever it may be. I'm not an entrepreneur. And it's like, wait, but why do we actually think that,
Right. Because someone else said that to me who's not in the industry, was like, but you've been an entrepreneur for the past 10, 11 years in this industry. And I'm like, I mean, but it's different.
Right. It's different.
It's different. You're still depending on someone to, give you a job. So am I really an entrepreneur? But when you have your own creative entity, your own podcast, your own web series, it's yours. You don't have that. You don't have to answer to anybody. All the creativity comes from your brain. All the words comes from the depths of your soul. And you can do it how you want.
Right.
You could pitch it to who you want. You can take on, sponsorships and collaborations and ads, whatever you want. It's not like I'm desperate for someone to be like, pick me. No, I'm going to do the picking now.
Right. 100%. And that part's scary.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, great, I want to do it. And then you're like, oh, wait, no, it's only me.
Yeah, it's only me. So everything falls on you. I mean, hopefully, one of my goals is to get to a point where I can hire my actor friends to do the voicing for me. That's one of my big goals. And I told all my friends, like, as soon as I get to that point, I'm hiring y'all to play Peach, to play Nathaniel, to play Tia, to play Car, because I don't want to do it.
Exactly.
Get to the point where I'm just the producer, where I just own it, and I can. And also, like, it's weird that I'm voicing boy characters. So, why not give a job to one of my fellow male Black actors?
Right.
I'm learning so much about myself. One of my big goals for 2020, like I wrote it on my vision board, and it was my, entry prayer into the new year. God revealed to me who I am outside of being booked and blessed. I really wanted to know who I was outside of belting on someone's stage or dancing in someone's ensemble, across America. And then Stoop Kids really blew up.
Right.
And I was like, oh, you're a writer. Oh, you're an entrepreneur. Oh, you're a producer. Oh, you are a content creator. Huh. Okay.
And you discovered all of these things. Again, I know you said you started it actually before the quarantine, but within it, you were like, oh, yeah, I'm learning all of this stuff about me.
Yeah.
And this is the result.
This is the result. And I just, I had the choice to keep going and to really dive into it, or I can just sit and like, meh, I'm not gonna give in, and I'm gonna dive into it and push into it and really give it my all and see what Stoop Kids can be. Because I can see it in my head what I want it to be. I can dream it, I can feel it, but I gotta put it in the work. So that's what quarantine is helping me do, put in the work.
Yes, amen to that. Put in the work. So I have a question for you. So we're talking about, our current pivots. But is there a time in your life that you've had to pivot and adapt before?
Yeah. Actually last summer. So I've always been the girl in the ensemble, right? And the girl who was the ensemble and covered the lead. So I've never actually led a show. And my friends would always tell me, like, leading a show is hard. Being the leading lady in a show is hard. Like, you don't just have to take on the weight of the, the story on stage, but you take on the weight of the cast. You were the lead. I'm like, I got it. Then I got cast in Pippin in Connecticut as leading player. And I was like, oh my God, my first lead role. Not supporting, not, like she wasn't Squeak in Color Purple or, Glendon with, like, she is leading player. The first voice you hear is join us. There it is.
Right.
And that, to switch my mind to go from ensemble to lead, was a big shift for me in a way that I didn't think it would be. People are looking to you for guidance and to carry the story and to always be on. You have to always show up. And I mean, even in the ensemble, you always have to show up, but there's a different pressure on you when you are the lead.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, and I didn't. It clicked to me what everyone was saying when they told me that. And if your voice is tired that day, like, what you gonna do?
Right.
You want to set a good example, and you don't want to be the diva. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna come in today, but no, you want to be like, okay, I got y'all on my back. We can do this. We could push through. Like, I'm gonna be on time for rehearsal every single day. Like, I'm gonna be warming up because this show is on my back, basically. Well, me and Pippin's back, but and especially being a Black girl in a show with all white people, that was a very different pressure than being the Black girl in the back, row number 4, stage right in the ensemble. So my thinking, the way I thought about my rehearsal process, the way I thought about walking into the show, it had to shift and pivot.
Right. That makes so much sense. that is a pivot, going from ensemble into the leading role. And I've done that before as well, ensemble for most of your career. And then all of a sudden you get that leading role and you're like, okay, this is different.
Yeah.
Exciting, but different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Completely different world. Even the way that you um interact with your director.
Mhm.
The fact that I was having one-on-one sessions with my director in the ensemble, you don't get that. It's just like a blanket statement. This is where you are in this world, in the scene. This is where you want,
Mhm.
or you're just going to choreography for rehearsals and that's it.
Mhm.
No, you're sitting down with your director and we're going through it line by line, word by word. I was like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
this is different, but I'm not mad at it. And yeah, it really shifted the way that I had to handle and carry myself in rehearsals and in the run of the show.
And you were also open to that. You were open to the, okay, I have to change my thinking. You were open to the adaptation and the pivoting and the, okay, yes, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, because if I wasn't, you can't be a lead and have that closed minded thinking.
Mhm.
There's no way, because then there's no room for growth. There's no room for you to step into that character and really be truthful and live truthfully in the world if you're so close minded. You know what I'm saying? If you're not gonna accept and adapt to what comes
Mhm.
your way in this new world that you're in. So
Mhm. Mhm. And so, what would you hope that our industry learns and how our industry can pivot and adapt because of the quarantine and everything that is happening in the world? And also now things that we already knew were happening in the microaggressions in theater, not even theater, let me say the microaggressions in the entertainment industry
mm,
that were already present,
mm-hmm.
especially for us Black women, but now they have come to light.
Yeah.
And so, how do you hope that our industry moves forward?
Well, I think on a grander scale, I hope that our industry will accept new people, right?
Mhm.
Because even
Mhm.
right now in the pandemic, we're seeing this spotlight on people who have already been on Broadway.
Mhm.
But then you see other people who haven't been on Broadway constantly putting out beautiful content.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are doing monologues and monologuing songs and writing songs and singing their audition pieces on Instagram. And I'm like, look at all this talent.
Mhm.
Some of y'all sing better than the people that are on Broadway. Some of y'all look better than the people that are on Broadway, but the producers are so, and you like who you like. I
Yeah.
understand that. And you know that this person works well, so you're gonna cast them for the same 5 shows. But I hope that they take this moment to really use social media to look and see what else is out there, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, because there's some beautiful work being done. And because we're in quarantine, it's like, well, why not plug up my phone and beat my face and sing a song and put some hashtags and get some traction, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so that's one. And as that trickles down into the Black community, because you see the same 5 Black actors in the shows, you see the same 5 Black actors in TV and film. Give us
Mhm.
a chance.
Mhm.
So that's one of my really really big concerns. And then if we trickle down to the nitty gritty of it, so if we're talking about new people, step producers and white directors, and step aside and let that new person step up, or that
Mhm.
person that you have cast 5 6 times and they have been your dance captain 5 or 6 times, let them step up to be choreographer. Let
Yes.
them step up to, even, or if they're not ready for choreographer, let them step up to be the assistant choreographer. Move
Mhm.
the tier so that you can funnel these new people in and you can move your regulars up
Mhm.
into higher positions because they've been in it.
Right.
So I know they're having these conversations. You at the top step aside and let some of these other people step in. Yeah. Fresh new faces.
Fresh new faces. No, that makes so much sense, and that's what it is. And step aside, or even like what's as you were talking, I'm like thinking about how about, or you giving the money to produce something new. So
Yeah.
instead of this, another production of, I'm trying to think of a show that has so many revivals, but another production of
Any
this
Rogers
show.
and Hammerstein.
Right. Yes, any Rogers and Hammerstein show. Another one. No, 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 no. How about you take your millions of dollars and let's produce something new and crazy?
Yeah. Why
Or
not?
something, why not? The industry is, I don't want to say scared, because I don't know if that's the right word I want to use, but very timid about things they don't know.
Sure. But I also think that they're
And
lazy.
oh, well, yep, that too. That might have been the word I was looking for. Like, yes, because doing something new requires work, doesn't it?
Uh-huh. But if you
Yeah.
really wanted to, you would go down to the off-Broadway theaters and see shows like A Strange Loop. You know,
Mhm.
you would go down into these black box theaters and see the new works. You would go to the festivals at Williamsburg and things like that and see um what these new artists are writing. You
Mhm.
know, you would go to MCC Theater and see all those lovely black plays by all these black female femme playwrights. And then why are they not going from MCC Theater to Broadway? Why are they just staying there?
Right.
Oh, because you would rather do To Kill a Mockingbird again.
Mm. Right, right. You're like, "It's great, that's a great play, but why are we doing it for the 75th time?"
Right. You know, we didn't read it in high school.
Mhm.
High school didn't probably did it.
Right.
Your community theater has done it. Your
Mhm.
church probably has done it, depending on
Uh,
where you're from.
mhm.
Um, why? Why?
Right.
I
Exactly,
want to see
exactly.
something new. I really hope that this quarantine is the birth of newness.
Mhm.
I really, and on all aspects, new people, new works, new leadership, new
Mhm.
rules and regulations, new guidelines. Uh, yeah, newness.
Yeah, newness. I love it, newness. So with the newness, do you believe that that's a way for, I guess, all artists, no matter what medium, a way for us to, I guess, continue to have hope in the industry? You know, it's hard right now. It's very hard,
hmm
to keep, your head above water and to keep that hope alive of like, yeah, this is still the right path that I'm on and the industry will come back. And so
Ooh,
do you
will it?
think that right, well, okay. Will it? I'm gonna answer that. I say, yes, it will, but I don't think it will be in the way that we thought or the way that it has been, if
So
that
what does
makes
that
sense.
look like? We're all on stage in mask and face shields?
No, no, I definitely don't think so. I don't know. And I think that TV and film will come back first.
Sure. Yes.
Definitely. I think theater is gonna take a little longer.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying, 2021. I'm like, 2022.
I mean, from my friends who were in Broadway shows when it hit,
Mhm.
they're looking like maybe fall 2021. Because at first it was January,
Mm.
Broadway's back.
Right, right.
Then it was like March, dot, dot,
Uh,
dot. Now it's like
uh-huh.
late summer, early fall. But
Mhm,
back
mhm.
to your question.
No, no, you're good, honey, you're good. Number 1, how are you keeping yourself motivated during quarantine, no matter, whether it's mentally, spiritually, physically? And then how would you suggest that someone who's just, fortunately, we both have podcasts now, so our brains are full of things circulating. But
Mhm.
for those who are still kind of in that rut of like, I don't really know what to do right now, what would be your words of encouragement?
I'm not motivated every day.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest. In the days I'm not motivated, I don't do anything. Because that's just what I need for my peace and for
Mhm.
my mental health. I'm not gonna force myself to do anything that I don't want to do because this is a very traumatic time.
Mhm.
Like I had to pack up my entire apartment in New York. It was the first time I had signed a lease.
Mm.
And when I moved all of my stuff back home into my childhood home and I hung up my clothes, I had an anxiety attack that lasted 36 days. So I'm not going to
Mm.
sit up here and force myself to be motivated. Um if the motivation comes, great. If I'm inspired, wonderful. But if I'm not, I'm just going to rest.
Right.
I'm just going to rest, and I'm going to give myself grace when I rest.
Mhm.
And allow myself to be like, it's okay that you don't want to do anything today. It's
Right.
okay. You woke up today, that's enough. You
Mhm.
walked down the hallway and came back to your bed. That's enough. Your body, that means your body is still able, your mind is still working, your heart is still beating.
Mhm.
So God didn't give up on you yet because your heart is still beating. And I find when my podcast is going and I'm getting emails and I'm all excited, that's great. And then I fall into a trap when there's a week of no emails and no new Patreon followers, or I'm like, okay, I have nothing to do. Like, what do I need to work on? I'm like, just chill out.
Mhm.
Just rest. If you want to write a story today, write a story. If you don't, you don't. It
Right.
ain't, the podcast isn't going anywhere, and COVID-19 is not going anywhere.
Mhm.
So just rest. For those who may not have, another project to work on, whether it be YouTube or you're writing scripts or a podcast, rest and be okay with resting. We
Right.
don't need to be fired up right now. We were just fired up hitting the pavement January and February.
Mhm.
Times were busy.
Yes.
Rest. Watch your favorite. Go watch Cheetah Girls 2 again.
Okay. Listen, Moesha is out on Netflix now.
Yes, go watch Moesha.
Friend, when I heard that, the game.
The game just dropped the other day.
Yes.
So yeah, go watch something that makes you happy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Do something that makes you happy. And if that's laying in bed, lay in bed. Because like I said, these are traumatic times and I don't want to force anybody to do anything that they don't want to do.
Right.
Um as long as it's not detrimental to your health. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm. Yes.
I'm not saying, sit at home and eat 100 gallons of ice cream and mess up your immune system, because we need strong immune systems, vitamin
Mm.
C, everyone.
Mhm.
In this times, in these
Yes.
times. But do what makes your person happy.
That's it. Like, do what makes you happy.
Mhm.
That is it. And like you mentioned the hustle, like, girl, the hustle
The
the hustle is
hustle.
so real, and I think it's honestly, and I'm gonna speak for myself,
Mhm.
I guess I felt guilty for resting, if that makes
Oh
sense. Like,
yeah.
my show had closed, and I was forced to, come home. I'm back at my mom's house,
Mhm.
but with that, I was still had a couple things to look forward to,
Mhm.
but on those days that I didn't feel like doing anything and that literally wanted to lay in bed and watch Netflix, I started to guilt myself for it
Yep.
because we're always on the hustle, we're always on the grind in the city. We don't have the time to rest.
Nope.
And then when we do,
You feel like the
I
world is passing you by.
yes, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So
Yep.
I will speak for myself, and definitely, like, I felt guilty for resting, and you're right, we shouldn't. We should be like, if that's what makes us happy today, that's what makes us happy today. We are alive to make that decision that that's gonna make us happy today.
Right. And even if you do feel guilty, sit with the guilt. Like, we're going to experience so many emotions.
Mhm.
If today you're feeling frustrated, sit with that frustration, process it. Why do you feel frustrated?
Mhm.
What's frustrating you? Um let's get to the root of that. Okay, today I feel guilty. Why do you feel guilty?
Mhm.
Because you didn't move as much today. Okay. Do you like this feeling of guilt? No. What can you do tomorrow so that you don't feel guilty? I'm not saying go run 5 miles, but maybe you go walk around the block.
Right.
Will that lessen your guilt?
Right.
I'm not saying that you got to do 5 self tapes and then make a voiceover reel and then submit to 5 different managers, because I was doing that too. Trying to,
Mhm.
keep up and do all these things. And when I didn't want to do it, I felt guilty.
Right.
Or I'm not on Actors Access every day submitting. What are you submitting for?
Right.
Ain't
Right.
nothing, ain't no job happening. Sit down.
Right.
So
Exactly.
so when you feel guilty, sit with every emotion, whether positive or negative. Sit with it, process it, and think about how it makes you feel. And if it makes you feel ugly inside, think of a small way to change it for the next day.
Mhm. That makes sense, that makes sense. I'm just like, "Child, the skills that I'm learning."
The
Let's talk
skills,
about that. Right.
ma'am. The skills, okay, because
Okay.
I would have never known. I did my theme song for my podcast, right? And I guess this is where imposter syndrome comes in. I have a $200,000 music degree, right?
Ooh, girl.
$200. Like, I don't have a BFA, I have a bachelor's of music. And the fact that I said, I'm gonna ask one of my musician friends to make my theme song for me. And then I stopped myself. I said, Melissa, you have a whole degree in music. If you don't sit down and make this song yourself.
Okay.
And
You
I
have
said
an
up here,
entire degree.
like not a half a degree, not a
No,
mind,
not a
like
half.
a bachelor's of music from the Benjamin T. Rome School of Music in Washington, D.C. at the Catholic University of America. Make this song, girl. And what did I do? I made a whole trap theme song for my podcast. And the kids love it. The kids go up for it. They love it.
There you go. Right. Using your skills. Using your skills and learning new skills in this time. Using them and learning new ones that you can put towards your career, even just towards your life.
Yeah, because who would ever, like, if we were on the grind right now, right? And we were auditioning, and we wouldn't have time to do this.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
No.
I probably would have still been on episode maybe 4 or 5 of my podcast. And that's maybe, let's say episode 4.
Right.
I'm halfway through season 2. So, skills.
Yes, it's the skills. And this time has, fortunately for us, we're able to use the skills and develop new ones and go, oh, okay, well, I do have to pivot. I do have to adapt. How can I do that?
Yeah. And figure out how to do it.
And figure out how to do it. It's a wonder what happens when you're kind of forced to, in essence. Like when you're, okay, I know I have to adapt. I know I want to. When you're open to, okay, I want to adapt. I want to pivot. Now, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, somebody help me. Tell me what to do. Bring things and people into my life that will inform this pivot and all of the things that I need to do now in this time that you are granting me with.
Right.
Yeah.
And look what has happened.
Right. Look what has happened, and it's...
So there's no turning back now.
Oh no, girl, there's no turning back.
we in too deep.
I'm in too deep now.
We got equipment. Okay, we're in too deep.
Okay, girl, this whole little studio I'm sitting in, it costs too much.
Listen, we turned in our LADUCAS for a microphone.
Melissa, you better say that again, okay?
Because I'm looking at my LaDucas right now, like, oh, I don't know the last time I put you on, but this microphone, baby, I'm like, oh, maybe I should treat myself to another one.
Well, right? We have turned in LaDucas for microphones, friends.
Yes.
Okay.
that needs to be the title of this episode. LaDucas into microphones.
That's it. That's the title. LaDucas for microphones.
Yep.
Oh my, that's so true though.
That's a pivot.
So true. That's a pivot. And it's, I don't think I would be specifically in this place if it weren't for the quarantine.
Right.
Like I've said, I was in the business course through the Actors Fund that I was taking, but I was on a different path. So I was writing a book about auditioning and workshops to help actors, which I'm still going to do. That's the thing. It's still on the workshop table. It's still there. The book has gone through its first edit. It's
wonderful.
There. It's there. Thank you. But that's not it right now. Because the book is so niche to New York. And auditioning in New York and my stories, because I was a monitor for Actors Equity for 2 years.
Okay.
So I got some stories.
Yeah.
And then I was non-union for 8 years of my career, non-union and unrepresented. And then I went to union and represented. So those are 2 different lives. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so talking about that and just, auditioning in New York. But I just was like, no, Ayanna, this is good. And you will release it. And this world will see it and read this book and have the workshops. But that's not it right now. So I just remember
not it right now.
Right, exactly. So I was like, how can I pivot? And so how can I still talk to people and still, be within my mission statement for Uplifted Artist? And so the podcast was like, oh, that's actually what's needed right now is the podcast to talk to my friends and my colleagues and, the artists we are going through it right now.
Baby, going
Okay?
through
Going
it.
through it. But to then just let's talk, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate the pivots that you have, big and small. They don't even have
Yeah.
to be huge pivots, Just things you've decided to do in this quarantine.
Yeah, some people picked up knitting. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to knit and do arts and crafts.
Right. And
And
watch, they're going to have a whole knitting line when we get out of this.
listen, we're going to
Okay?
have vocal scarves ready to go for the wintertime.
Okay.
Cute. It'll be cute.
It's going to be real cute.
The pivot is real and it's happening.
The pivot is so real and happening, but that's in us, Melissa. That is innately in us, I think, because of the hustle of our industry and especially New York.
Oh yeah. I mean, you have to pivot, when you're on stage and someone drops a line.
Hello, okay? Right.
Or you're on stage and a fire alarm goes off and it's like, okay, everyone has to go outside for 20 minutes in the cold and you got to come back in and pick right up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Or a set piece doesn't rise.
Oh.
Or the pit doesn't close.
Oh.
Now, I've had that a couple times.
Oh, wow.
You're like, well, okay, I'm not going to step that way.
But you're not going to do, I am the queen of my wig falling off.
Ooh.
Every show, it happens. Yeah, I am the queen. And it only happens when I'm on for my understudy role.
Okay.
It's never when I'm in the ensemble.
Uh-huh.
Whenever I step into the role that I'm understudying, wig gone. Gone.
Wow.
So, how do you recover?
Exactly. Well, yes. Yeah. How do you recover? And I think that's it. That's what pivoting is how do you recover? Because we have it in us to reevaluate the situation and then to adapt. It has been lovely to speak to you, Melissa. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and your insight and the creation of your podcast. I just have one last thing to say to you, and that is I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
That was beautiful. I received that, and I pass that back to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, this was so great.
Yeah.
Like I feel so official. Like, we're out here podcasting.
We're out here podcasting, girl.
This is so great. And I'm literally honored that you had me on because, I'm in my own bubble creating my own things. And I don't know who's out here watching and paying attention. Not that I'm doing it for attention, but, people have noticed, and so I'm honored that you wanted to speak to me and hear my little side of my story in this quarantine life.
Of course. Melissa, thank you so much for sharing, and I want to highlight a few things. First is hoping that this quarantine brings newness, whether it's in your personal life, family, or career. And the second is rest, and being okay with resting. Not ignoring your responsibilities, but resting and knowing that you need it. Thank you again, Melissa, and thank you for tuning in. I'll speak to you soon.